Hey, what's up guys? It's Cypher from CypherPK.com, and today I am bringing you the Stamina DK build that I've been playing this week. Now before I get into the build, I just want to say that I got a lot of inspiration from a lot of different people to put this build together, but I want to thank Scribes. He was the main inspiration for the core aspects of the build, and I also want to thank Classic and a few other people who gave me some tips and info regarding the DK stamina class, especially this one-hand and shield tank approach to the Stam DK. Now I know you guys saw me play with a 2H and bow build in one of my videos. That build I'm kind of just putting it on hold until the next patch. There's a few different sets I want to try, but this build that I've been playing for the past week has been pretty successful as far as Stam DK goes. Now don't expect to achieve the same things you might achieve with a Stam Nightblade or a Magic Sork or Magic Nightblade for that matter, but you can still achieve some pretty good things with this build. It's very tanky, very strong, especially in smaller scale one-on-one, one-on-two, one-on-three situations. It can definitely manage its resources well. It's not an easy build to play, even though it's a straightforward build. But there's a lot of buffs involved, and there's a lot of things you have to keep into account when you're playing with this build, or else you'll just find yourself out of resources, out of stamina, and out of luck because you'll be dead. So, Stamina DK, it's a one-hand shield and 2H build. Let's get into it quickly. I like to make these build videos short and to the point. Our front bars are one-hand and shield bar. Now we have Vigor on our front bar with Ransack, Riverbaiting Bash, Igneous Shield, and Defensive Stance. Ransack is going to be your main source of DPS. Now you do want to animation cancel with this build to boost your DPS potential. Light attack, Ransack into a bash. That's going to be your main DPS bread and butter. You will be able to hit pretty hard with that, and if you practice your animation canceling skills, you'll be able to get that combo very consistently to get that pressure DPS. Vigor is going to be on our front bar. The reason is you don't want to be swapping back and forth too much. You're going to be very tanky on your one-hand and shield bar, but you're going to expose yourself when you're buffing up with your 2H. So you typically want to minimize the amount of weapon swaps you do with this build, being that it's a tank and you want to be able to hold that block up as long as you can. That's why Vigor is going to be on our front bar, so we can top off our health without actually having to swap to do a rally plus Igneous plus Vigor buff. Riverbaiting Bash. Now, Riverbaiting Bash has, I've criticized this ability many times for the wrong reasons. So the reason this ability has been criticized by me is because the CC component of this ability is very buggy at times. It sometimes takes you too long to CC break the Riverbaiting Bash. Sometimes you start sliding on the floor. It's very just not smooth at all. But the fact of the matter is you need some sort of way to heal debuff your opponents. With the Nightblade you have Soul Harvest for a solo player. With the Sorcerer it's not as needed just because of the fact Sorcerer has very heavy burst. With DK with sustained DPS you need a way to reduce your opponent's healing. Now this is gonna achieve that. It's gonna reduce their healing effectiveness by 33% for 10 seconds. Now the stun is annoying. Even when I get hit by Riverbaiting Bash I get annoyed. But if ZeniMax doesn't want to fix his ability, you're going to have to use it to heal debuff your opponents. Typically, when I play with this ability, I keep in mind that the CC is a little whack. So a lot of the times I use it strictly for heal debuff purposes, and I don't spam the crap out of it because you can still hit people with Riverbaiting Bash even after you hit them the first time because it doesn't give them CC immunity. It's a disorient. It's not a complete stun, but it's still a necessary ability to have on your bar so that you can heal debuff your opponents. It's just the way it is. I mean, I've complained about this ability many times, but if ZeniMax wants to keep it like that, there's no other option. DKs don't have other heal debuff options. You could put Disease on your sword, but that's a 15% proc rate, and it's not that consistent. Igneous Shield's going to buff your Vigor and your Rally. It's definitely needed, and it's also a spammable ability that you will have an option to spam once you get a Magicka Tether, if you have a lot of Magicka pool, to get your stamina back, because the Earth and Heart passive actually gives you 5% of your max stamina back every time you activate a Earth and Heart ability. So I use my Magicka pool to gain my stamina back using Igneous Shield. Defensive Stance. This is going to help you block more. It's going to give you a reflect option. It's going to reduce the damage you're taking when you're blocking. Now you could also run with Dragon Fire Scale. You can go either ways. I've had success with both of them. Dragon Fire Skill is going to strain your magic a little more, but it's definitely a better reflect, and this is just better overall. Like, the thing is about the defensive stances, if you run into someone who is not using projectiles, it's still going to help you because you block more and you block more damage. So you don't lose as much stamina when blocking, you block more damage. So that's why sometimes I prefer defensive stance. But sometimes there's a lot of projectiles coming at you, and Dragon Fire Skills is a better ability for that situation. You can go either ways. Now, our ultimate, I'm using Flawless Dawnbreaker just so I can boost my consistent DPS. You could also put Ferocious Leap on this front bar and put something else on the back bar. I'll explain the ultimate options in a little bit. Back bar, it's going to be our two-handed bar. This one is very customizable. You'll notice I don't have a gap closer with this build. Some people might find that, you know, strange. I personally have played with and without, and sometimes when I'm playing with a gap closer, I find myself not even using it. When I play without it, I kind of want to use it. So I've gone back and forth, and you have a few options when it comes to that. Now, what I've been predominantly running with is Rally for the heal, Unstable Flame for a consistent dot over time, Retreating Maneuvers just so you can have some sort of mobility, Shuffle for dodge chance and survivability, and Executioner just to execute opponents. And also, it's kind of encouraged to kill people with your 2H using this build because you have a very low stam region pool to pull from. So when you kill someone using your 2H bar, you get the 30% extra stam region for 10 seconds from the 2H passive, and that helps your sustainability. I have my Dragon Leap on my 2H bar, so I can leap into an execute to finish off my opponents. That's typically how I take people out. I'll hit them with a Reverberating Bash, I'll swap while they're stunned, hit them with a leap, and hit them with the execute. Now, you have a few options over here. If you want a gap closer, feel free to put Stampede. Stampede is going to snare your opponents. Very useful. Now, if you are using Stampede and you want to drop your Executioner for more tankiness, you can put Volatile Armor. That's going to give you an option to pull Nightblades out of Cloak because it's AoE when you activate it, and it also makes you a lot more tanky. Now, the reason I don't usually use Volatile Armor, actually I don't use Volatile Armor with Retreating Maneuvers, because I know some of you might be thinking I want mobility and tankiness, is because the return damage from Volatile Armor will remove the speed buff from Retreating Maneuvers, because if you attack someone, you lose the speed buff. So if someone hits you with any physical damage at all, melee physical damage, you're going to hit them back with however much damage, you know, there's the recoil effect. And once you do that recoil effect, it removes your speed buff. So that's why I don't use both of these at the same time. Right now, what I'm mainly running with is this approach. The Execute without a gap closer, Unstable Flame. Usually I make my opponents come towards me. If someone runs away from you, so be it. If a Sork streaks away from you, so be it. If an eye play close away from you, that's fine. They ran away from you. They're not killing you. But if they try killing you, you pack a punch. You definitely do pack a punch with this build. And you have some very good sustain, very good tankiness, and very good survivability. Now let's go into the set bonuses really quickly. We're using 2 Ancient Guardian. This is actually very important because of the fact that when you get the health tether, you're very tanky. When you get the Magicka tether, you can dump your Magicka pool into your stamina pool by spamming Igneous Shield. Now when you get the stamina tether, that's perfect because, you know, this is a tank build. You need that stamina. You're blocking most of the time, so you're cutting off your stamina regen. Anything that can give you more stamina back is going to be useful. Ancient Guardian is almost, I want to say it's not necessary, but it's my best recommendation. Now you can go with 2 pieces of Blood Spawn. I have not tried that yet, but that's also a very good approach for resource management. Now you could go 1 Blood Spawn, 1 Molokina. I don't necessarily recommend that just because of the fact that at that point you're giving up a lot of your potential resource management, and this build needs that resource management coming from the Undaunted set. We're also using 5 pieces of Hunting's Rage. 1, 2, 3, 4 with the shield, 5 piece. The 2H is also Hunting's Rage, so you have the 5 piece on both bars because you're using offensive abilities on both bars. Now we're using 3 agility, 1 ring, necklace, and a sword, and we're using 2 Shadow Walker. Shadow Walker boots, Shadow Walker ring. Now for the Shadow Walker, that's what I'm using right now. If things weren't so expensive to craft, I probably would be going with Night Mother Gaze or another 2-piece that could give you max stamina because of the fact that okay, the problem with Shadow Walker in particular is it's V14. So you're using V14 ring with a V14 boots. You kind of miss out on that V16, you know, enchant with the armor rating from V16 armors. So next patch you'll have a little bit more jewelry sets to work with, which is why I'm not going to be doing that right now. I'm going to wait until Orsinium. There's going to be a lot of new jewelry sets and armor sets that you can probably fit in that will work better with this build. But for now, I'm using this 2-piece Shadow Walker. Character stats. We are using regen drinks right now, but you could also use food if you want to buff up your, your max stats, because you do play really well with max stats. Oh, I forgot to mention. Reduce cost, weapon damage, weapon damage. This is completely customizable. If you want to go with regen or all reduced cost or one weapon damage, you have to customize it to how you play. I went with damage just because I want to be able to hit really hard. I feel like my sustain was decent enough for me to get away with this weapon damage, double enchant with 1 cost reduction. Now on the big pieces, and I mean all the V16 pieces, I'm running prismatic lifts. Now those are really expensive, but they do help this build. Having prismatic enchants is going to help you. If you don't have prismatic enchants, just dump everything in stamina. You will be fine as long as you have 20k health and the rest in the stamina. We're using the Serpent Mana Stone just for extra stam regen. It's definitely needed. This is with drinks. This is how my stats look like with drinks. You can definitely play this with food as well. With food, your stats will look like this. You got 18k max magicka, 26.1k max health, 30k max stamina. Your regen is really low, but most of your regen is going to come from Battle Roar and your Engine Guardian proc. You can definitely get away with having low regen using this build. Our weapon damage is 2700, and while it's fully buffed, it goes up to 3161, and it will go even higher after your light attack, given that you have weapon damage on your sword. That's how the stats look like. Keep in mind, we do have the Emperor Alliance bonus, so our health is a little higher than usual. Usually it's 24k. Let's go into the champion points. By the way, we are not a vampire or a werewolf this build. You could go werewolf and put the werewolf ultimate on 1 bar so you can get 15% regen. That's perfectly viable. I'm not doing that. Now for racial choice, keep in mind, I am a dark elf. This is not the best race for this build, but you can still make it work. The best race in my opinion would be Redguard, Imperial, Orc, Wood Elf. Like heck, even a Khajiit could make this work, but those are my top picks, basically. But every race, even a Dark Elf, can make this work if played properly. Yeah, you'll be missing out on some regions, some max stats, but that's fine. I'm proving to you that you can still play with this build, even though you don't have the best racial passes for it. Let's go into the champion tree. I have 408 champion points. Some people are going to have less, some people are going to have more. But what you want to do is you want to just basically ratio everything down towards how I align my points. But there's one aspect that I'll have to point out that's a little different for people. We have 35 points into reducing stamina cost abilities. We have 51 points into stamina regen. I might change this up a little bit. I feel like having reduction costs is a little more important given that our regen is already very low. So a 15% stam regen boost won't help as much as having more cost reduction. But this is how I'm running right now. We have 29 points into tumbling, 21 points into befoul. This is gonna increase the heal debuff that you apply with Riverbending Bash. Definitely very important and definitely very useful against healers, against anyone who relies on healing. 10 points into Bless so we can get increased healing back. 5 points into Blade Hunter, 5 points in Heavy Expert. This is just going to increase our light attacks and heavy attacks with our sword and our two-hander. 40 into Piercing. 6 into Precise Strikes, 70 into Physical Damage. So we have a lot into increasing our armor penetration, which is helping boost our DPS. And I like this setup right now, but I'm going to be experimenting with different setups. Now over here is where things get a little tricky. If you have 360 champion points, you can unlock the passive Unchained by putting at least 120 points into the Lady constellation. If you don't have 360, I don't recommend that you dump this many points into the Lady constellation. You do want to put a lot of points into reducing critical damage and also block mitigation. But I feel like this helps my resource management a little bit better by having Unchained, which reduces the stamina cost abilities by 80% for 3 seconds after breaking free of a stun. So usually I CC break and then I cast Shuffle and retreating maneuvers to reposition myself basically at free of cost. Now this requires at least 360 champion points. Not the best thing for everyone because not everyone has 360. If you don't have 360, pull a lot of points into Hardy, some into Elemental Defender, some into Thick Skin, but put a lot of points as well into block expertise and reducing critical damage. We also have 5 points into increasing healing effectiveness. That's going to stack with Blessed. So that's a champion point layout. This is the Stam DK build. I'm going to have some videos being posted of this build in action. I'm actually going to make a professional montage for this build because it's been a while since the DK has felt strong. I don't want to say strong. useful. Useful is a better word. Trying not to piss off a lot of people at the same time, but it's all right. It's alright. The DK is alright, okay? This build is alright for the DK. Now, there's still some things that need to be fixed, but it's all right. This is, I forgot to mention, this is 5 heavy, 2 medium. 5 heavy with 2 medium. You want your medium pieces to be small pieces because of the fact that the larger pieces will have more armor rating on the heavy, and you're only using the medium for the passives. So 5 heavy, 2 medium, you want to use the medium passives and the heavy passives to help this build out. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is going to be posted on cypherpk.com. I have a lot of builds on cypherpk.com for almost all the classes except Templar. I mean, I have a Templar build, but it's from PTS. I didn't really get to test it on live, but I am leveling up my Templar very slowly. It will make its big debut eventually, and we'll have more builds coming there. So cypherpk.com for more PvP builds. And don't forget to subscribe and like for future ESO content. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys soon.